I'm WG and we finally have the full entire news on what changes where for who. So let's use this opportunity to try and get a grasp of how big of a change is it for which character and who are the biggest beneficiaries of this, massive buff wave, and also obviously rework / adjustment wave, or maybe even nerf wave, depending on how they will perform for Tressa and Cassius. So starting this off, we have already Agony. So now we know how Agony works. Agony is now going to be stacked as a single debuff instead of you having to scroll for 100 years to see what it does. And damage is dealt based on the number of Agony stacks, and then the stack count is reduced by half. The number of damage count increases based on the stack count. Makes sense. And then now the Agony continuous effect. At the end of the turn, deal fixed DOT equal to 50% of the amount of Agony. On effect activation, decrease Agony stacks by half, max 20. Again, hard to say. We'll have to see the multipliers, the effect for a full Tressa. Now this on the other hand is already huge. So counters now deal 200% instead of 150% damage and inflict 100% defense based, they now deal 200% instead of 150 when you fully block with the shield. But look at this. Critical hits apply to counterattacks. So my gear guide, straight out of the window. It's obviously not relevant anymore. You can now build you now absolutely should build any unit reliant on counterattacks with crit chance and crit damage as well, with then obviously the next preferred stats being something like defense flat, defense percentage. So this is going to be a massive increase to counterattack damage, especially with our crit damage values fluctuating anywhere from 25 if you have no crit damage to up to 100% additional damage if you have some good crit damage substats. So that is going to be quite essential and going to make them hit that much harder. So already every unit like Maribell, like Magna, like Khalipe and 9 as well are all very much heavily benefiting from this. So our first target is Nia, and that's already a bunch of changes. So what do we have right here? It's just straight up 50% heal for each decibel, adding additional heal into her kit, and elasticity was when an ally performs an extra attack, 50% heal. Upon activation, -1 elasticity, and now on ally extra attack, 50% for each elasticity, and on activation, remove elasticity, max 5 stacks. So you can now build up to, let's say, 5 elasticity, then use an ally extra attack and consume all of them for 250% heal. The G-Chord, basic G-Chord now restores 2 decibel instead of 1. The Unique Epiphany 1 also now 2 instead of 1. Unique Epiphany here as well, 2, 2, 2. The 4th Epiphany now restores 3 instead of 2. So more, decibel gain, more healing gain. We now have an additional elasticity gain effect on Soul Rip, the base version, as well as also on the Unique Epiphany, where you now get 2 decibel 2 elasticity even when discarded. Here it's just a stronger heal, 2 decibel that before had no decibel at all, and also allowing the next decibel effect to activate one more time, meaning if you use decibel for its effect for the 50% heal, you're now then also going to get the whole thing twice, and also plus 50% extra damage amount for each stack of decibel, and decibel gets activated on shuffle. And then here just an additional elasticity. Overall nothing too crazy, but mainly buffing Nia's healing capabilities while leaving the rest of her kit mostly untouched. And that is pretty much what you could say there. So Nia is now better at healing, but nothing changed in the grand majority of damage potential, support potential, whatever else you want to call it. Now for Rey, you added 20% damage based recovery effect, so 20% of however much damage you deal with the basic attack is going to be recovered as healing, right? Not as heal. We have a doubling in healing for snack time, 50% increase for some of the epiphanies. Overall, 150% heals added to other epiphanies that didn't have it before. But what that also means is a little bit of a, not necessarily nerf, but a change, and that is now these epiphanies that before couldn't can now roll a increased healing divine as well, where that wasn't possible before. Now, Tressa, right, the big one. We have the Shadow Dagger, adding 2 agony at 50%, now dealing 80 and adding 1 agony. The Advanced Shadow Dagger main change, the cost going down to 0, and it being Retain Exhaust instead of Retain Retrieve. And 2 agony, 50% damage, and plus 10% damage amount for each agony on a target. So if an agony, if a target has the max stacks at 20, that would be 250% damage instead of just 50% damage, while obviously also adding the agony. Then for the Unsheathed Dagger Epiphany 4, you increase the agony effect of created Shadow Daggers by 2, so it goes to 3 agony instead of by 5. So obviously a bit weird that there's like green number, red number. Here we have the cost reduction for the Shadow Reload Epiphany. The cost reduction here as well, increased healing and creating 1, because Shadow Daggers are now more powerful. But if you did have the AP before, you should notice the ability to play out less. The X card is great. X cards each randomly chosen to be either a Shadow Dagger or Advanced Shadow Dagger, definitely improving the usage capacity, in that if you can get an Advanced Shadow Dagger, that is obviously a bonus over just a basic one. It is kind of weird though that it's like a 50-50, that just it's either or at this point. The Shadow Reload Unique Epiphany 5 that discards all cards and creates Shadow Dagger for each discarded now has 2 exhaust, meaning you'll be able to use it twice during a fight. And here, instead of the 50% agony damage increase, which was very dominating and very dominant, it's now a 80% damage times 3 at 2 to 6 agony. Is it random? Is it just like randomly adding 2 to 6, or is it 2 per hit going up to 6 then? Activates this unit's agony applied to a target. Now, Cursed Gouge. This might be where one of the main benefits in Tressa lies, and maybe it's the chase card to duplicate, and that is you have the ability to use agony, to trigger agony, to get the full damage, and then cut the stacks in half, right? Cut the stacks in half, and then you would be able to build it up back to 20, and then again cut the stacks in half right here, and trigger like you could say a bit more of like a massive agony burst through Cursed Gouge. And then Magna right here, a damage improvement to Glacier Fist, massive improvement to the Epiphany 1, bigger improvement right here, while still obviously retaining vulnerability, so bigger improvements across all Iron Fists along on the board, as well as also double exhaust and cost reduction to the one that allowed you to get a shield based on 50% of the damage date, as well as also retain shield for 1 turn. You can now do that twice throughout the fight, making this card a lot more viable outside of just using the card so that you can't draw it anymore. Big shield increase on the ice walls, as well as ice wall epiphanies. Lead being added to the Epiphany 3, which allows counterattack to apply to all cards, so she now has even more lead cards in her arsenal, making the triangle quite valuable, though that should be Season 1 exclusive. It's going to be hard to see how easy that one is to come by, and then again more shield bonuses. So biggest buff for Magna, definitely counterattacks, being able to crit, but then along the board, more shields, more damage, more utility, more cost reductions even. Magna's been eating good. Okay, now Haru. Anchor shot goes from 240 plus 60 to 300 plus 80 and up to 10 stacks? Damn! So before this, the theoretical cap was 240 plus 300%. Now it's 300 plus 800%. They definitely want her to not just feel like that second-rate option compared to 9 being released. 400% damage plus 120% for each used. So that is up to 1600% just through her own card by herself alone. And then the Anchor Shot combo gets a 40% increase And that is quite important due to obviously it being a high base damage, meaning multipliers apply more effectively, and it already being a 2-hitter, so it being like an 80% increase to base damage rather than just 40 due to it being twice. A twice hitter. Then here again, huge potential in this one as well, where you can get up to 9 times 150% damage if you discard a bunch of other combatant cards, which would be 1350%, so 1700%. Though I think even just like this one now is a lot more reliable than this Anchor Shot 3 right here. For the fourth one, you get more damage plus used, and also you create this card in the draw pile 2 times per battle, and you probably still have to use it at base and then stack it up separately. And then here we have the on crit return, so we have 350 plus 80, so higher base, higher scaling, and also the ability to move to hand so long as it crits. Lift Anchor now increasing the damage by 80%, and the Ego Manifestation taking it from 70 to 100 to 80 to 120, meaning a 40% bonus, where you can also further increase the damage of Lift Anchor through her potential, I think, if I'm not wrong, allowing to get a, no, I don't think, it should only be Ego, but yeah, it's overall a 20% increase if you have that E1, like 120% multiplier on top of, let's say, 400% base damage, combined with a 120% 10 times scaling. That is some big numbers. So if Haru felt a little silly to use, she should now hit even more devastatingly. Khalipe, the upward slash, the AoE basic attack, just now naturally deals more damage. And let's see, potential 3, change upward slash card to target all enemies to upward slash card deal minus 40% damage amount to target all enemies. Okay, so it stays the same against AoE targets at 180, but against single targets it now got a plus 40% buff. The Vulture Ejection now deals 20% more, provides 20% more shield. The Unique Epiphany, 70% damage bonus, that is 33% more than what it was before. The shield version giving 80% more shield. The mixed version also going up by 30 and by 30 in both. The AoE and retain shield version also going up by 30 and 20. And then the final one, the damage version plus shield per card in hand, going up by 10 per card and 30 per attack. Whereas then Overpower now just gains more shield, while everything else pretty much seems to stay the same, as well as the Unique Epiphany as well. So, Khalipe herself, more damage, more shield, and also the fact that they improved Vulture Ejection, which is her core identity card, to just be able to do more damage, to generate more shields, definitely is, yeah, it is quite huge for any team that really ends up using Khalipe, especially now bringing these lines a bit more, or these numbers a bit more in line with what the potential of a 9 truly provides. Alrighty, Hugo himself, he now gets Initiation on Instinct Epiphany 2, Instinct Epiphany 3, Instinct Epiphany 5 as well. And also his Quick Fix now gets a 40% damage bonus at base level for the 3-hitter. It's not much. It's a bit of a touch-up, it's a bit of an increase. He's going to feel smoother than before, but by no means is it going to change the world. Yuki. The thing that a lot of people of us have been waiting for. We get a 200% increase to the base of Flash Slash, 20% increase, 30% increase to the cost reduction one, 20% increase to the cost reduction by 2 version, 20% increase to the additional hit version, and plus 90% for each card of this unit drawn for 1 turn, plus 90% going up to plus 450%, making this 770% damage for the Flash Slash unique version. So when it comes to single target, it is definitely a lot more viable. These ones overall a lot more viable, but should be, yeah, used in a specific build. So the big winners here definitely are just the base flash slash, just getting, yeah, quite a bit of a touch up, making multiplicative bonuses even more effective, and also the double hitter, because, well, obviously it's as if you were to add the buff twice. Alright, let's see. 180% damage, so just a bit of a touch up there. 60% more damage here, 260% more damage here for one random card in hand with retain retrieve, one random card in hand with retain, and one random card in hand, which is obviously the base version. Then the third one was changed. Enable inspiration for all cards of this unit in hand was changed to enable inspiration buffs for all cards of this unit in hand, and when for one turn when using cards of this unit with an enabled inspiration, 100% damage to random enemies. Interesting. So you can use this a bit more like how her unique epiphany for Freezing Blade actually ended up working. So now you have like a bit of an additional one there. A bit of a touch up, bit of an increase on the Trickery Strike Epiphany, and also a bigger increase to the inspiration, making the zero cost version 300% single target. That is quite beefy. Freezing Blade, the effect that gets triggered every time you use an inspiration, now up by plus 30%. The important part here is this Freezing Blade effect gets buffed by stacks like morale and damage increases. So just because it says 90%, it's actually a bit more impactful, because any damage buffs, any additional buffs right there are also going to buff this damage as well, making these, yeah, inspiration additional Freezing Blade hits, the Yatsus, a lot more deadly. Then 140%, I would definitely try and pick this one up, even though it doesn't have the initiation tag. I definitely still try to pick up the 140 version, 90 version with initiation. The single target version is now 120% times 2 to a random enemy. The increased damage amount of AoE cards by 40% multiplicative instead of by 30. And also at the start of the turn, you enable inspiration for 2 random cards in hand instead of 1. My favorites here are definitely either this one for general purposes, this one if we can find a proper way to scale Freezing Blade, and then lastly the double hitter just for single target. I still don't know if it's so viable to go out of your way to build a single target Yuki, especially with 9 being a thing. But you can definitely try, and you're going to find a ton more success than before. I'd overall rate this as pretty good. And also, don't forget, Yuki was never bad. She always was really good, and the moment you start facing 2 or more enemies, things are in your favor. Now, 9. No, not 9. Rin. This is something I'm very much looking forward to. So, Darkness Secret Art Destruction, which drew you 2 Rin cards, now draws you 2 Rin cards and gives you stands. The Epiphany 2 decreases the cost of that card by 1 for 1 turn and gives you stands instead of just reducing the cost. Plus 50% damage amount to that card for 1 turn and stands, so they just added stands to the destructions. Darkness Inner Art now at base gives plus 40 instead of plus 30, plus 80 with the Epiphany 1 instead of plus 60, plus 40 for 1 turn at 0 cost instead of 1 cost, while still allowing you to retain stands. And then, wait, they uncapped Dark Myth Secret Art Black Dance. This card can now go up and be a 9, like a 9 hitter, or 10 hits total, because it's 80 base, and then for every skill card in hand you add an additional hit. So hypothetically, obviously this goes higher with potential and upgrades and the like, but you can hypothetically make her a 10 hit Dark Myth Secret Art Black Dance. That is hilarious. The question of how can you make this happen and how you can take advantage the most obviously now arises, but damn, Does it change anything in the grand scheme of things? No. Does it increase the ceiling of the card by quite a lot? Oh, absolutely it does. For example, opening up advanced, like, yeah, what's the name? Orlea, right? Advanced Orlea synergy right there. Okay, Chizuru. When buying cards of this unit are enhanced, stack into one card, and when they are in the same pile or enhanced, stack into one card. What that also means is if you're spamming Shadow of the Moon, by spamming Shadow of the Moon, you use Shadow of the Moon, and the Shadow of the Moon goes into your graveyard. Then you use another Shadow of the Moon, another goes into the graveyard, and so on and so forth. What that allows you to do is then get a 5-stack Shadow of the Moon already in your graveyard, which means the next time you draw it, it's already fully stacked. Also reducing the risk of running into, deck overflow issues and cooking your hand. So, inhibits. Cannot be influenced by AP gain or loss except for what is given through cards and continuous effects of this unit. So, AP epiphanies on Chizuru now became a lot more viable, a lot more useful, while the rest pretty much stayed the same. Karmic Flames now makes it a triple hitter against targets with cursed jackets. At base, with the Unique Epiphany 1, it just increases base damage but makes it a triple hitter. Decrease cost of the next card of this unit by 2. Okay. I don't know if she has that many 2-cost cards, but yeah, it now reduces the cost of the next card used by 2. You might be able to find some interesting scenarios to take advantage of this. At the end of the day, it's 1 AP gain. The other one is a 150% multiplier instead of 100% multiplier. The initiation, create 1 Shadow of the Moon, is now 1 cost, making this a lot more viable, a lot more valid. This one is now by far the strongest version, no questions asked, because it's now 0 cost. You can use it, you won't be able to draw into it anymore, cutting down on your deck, and the moment the target that has it is defeated, this card goes back into your hand and you can play it out again. This is almost a must-have epiphany on pretty much any Chizuru deck. That is pretty strong. Okay, Secure Me is now 3 wits for each hit of the next attack card used, making stacking even faster. The Unique Epiphany 1 is 4 for next of attack card used, which is kind of nuts. Add 1 hit to the next attack card used and 2 Will-O-Wisp for each hit. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's overall better, right? The Bound at Dusk by 1 until 2 random cards of another combatant are used at base. The Upgrade Epiphany that now does the 2 until 2 random cards are used is now reduced in cost in playing it. The Oni Hunt that gives 60% damage times 3 plus 80% to the next bind card? Nah, that's insane. That is insane. That is stupid. That is stupid. Okay, and then this one is a 4-hitter plus 100%. Here it's a times 2 plus 100%. What the fuck? So what this means is you can stack this, right? You can stack this as many times as you want until... it became from a 180 plus 60 to a 150 times 2 plus 100, which is a crap ton better. What this means is you can play these cards out as long as you want until you use the next bind card, and the scaling, like if you look at it like a graph and you imagine, okay, if I add 2 hits every turn and if I had 100% damage every turn, the scaling just went through the roof. The scaling just went absolutely nuclear, because you can add 300% damage every turn and 4 hits every turn. That is like any time where there is not this debuff of if you do more than 7 hits, don't do any damage, right? Or like reduce damage. She's gonna cook absolutely everything so fast with so much damage. It's disgusting. Where then obviously in like 7 hit scenarios still you can use the card to add hits to the next card used, but then also Yeah, but then also just go to the 7 mark while you continue pushing and pushing and pushing the damage multiplier to then use the 7 hit to still do insane amounts of damage. Okay, other than Shadow of the Moon, if there are no other attack cards in hand, add 2 hits. Alright. The 80% multiplier, obviously only usable once, but still pretty sweet. Here we have 80% for each bind stack. Wait, they're boosting Shadow of the Moon as well. At 80% base damage, plus 40 for each bind stack. Shadow of the Moon plus is now 180 times 2. At 5 HP and plus 40 per bind stack, because before this was plus 20 per bind stack at 70, now it's 180. Also making multiplicative damage bonuses that much more effective here, and the ult getting 100% damage bonus. Chizuru is a beast now. Like, Chizuru is a generational threat now. Absolutely not to be underestimated as a DPS or a support or whatever you want her to be. Okay, now combatants with additional changes from the previous balance announcement: Cassius, Selena, Owen, Beryl, Maribell, Orlea, Kayron, Veronica, Renoa, Luke. Alright, so Orlea, she now has 1 attack card, 2 healing cards, 50% chance per attacker to create a minion, and her potential now increases the healing rather than the attack card damage. If Orlea's attack is greater than 700 or the defense is greater than 300, you add 6% critical chance to any combatant in her team, making this potential a lot stronger. Oh, this is crazy. Now it's a 10% multiplicative, 20% multiplicative, 35% multiplicative. Like, it at least still has the same... Yeah, like, the every time you retain this card, the next attack card gets 35% every single damn time, and also, on top of that, a separate multiplier for you playing out this card. Like, damage boosting this for, like, a Chizuru, damage boosting like this for a Rin, damage boosting like this for a 9, it's gonna be deadly. That's gonna be deadly. Swifties are now actually valid in damage, with higher base numbers but still same scaling. Softies are now even better at healing, with the healing being doubled and the shield also being massively increased. Growth Acceleration now heals more in all its Epiphany variants. And also Will of Light is now a 1 cost instead of a 2 cost, which is quite great. Like, Orlea, even though she also gets a change at the end of or during season 3, this is already a massive improvement. Damn. So yeah, she's doing really well for herself, Orlea. Definitely a valid support option, especially if you don't have access to somebody like Naja, or you're just looking for that like 1-turn mega hit potential. Quest mechanic changes. 80% fixed healing 3 times per turn. Quest card is excluded from the criteria. Let's see. When conditions are met during battle, generate a quest card and generate healing. But obviously quest cards aren't capped. There were some people running around saying, oh no, Cassius can now only create 3 quest cards. As you can see, quest cards are obviously excluded, meaning you can create as many of those as you want. 000 is now 200% damage and kept at plus an additional 160 instead of base 40. So the damage route is still there, but it doesn't scale into like the 10,000s of percentages. Same is true for Empower 000, which is just higher base, bit better scaling. 111 now draws 1. That is really big. Like, that is really important. The fact that you playing 3 1-cost cards now draws or generates a card that now draws you 1 and deals damage and heals, that is actually quite nice. Like, that can definitely open a lot of doors for Cassius. And now having the decreased stress also for the empowered version and not version, it's better, but yeah, Full House itself still a highlight card. 0 cost, exhaust, draw 1 with the new support set, with the idea of turning him into a full draw engine, actually quite huge. Straight also gains draw. Damn, so the only card that doesn't gain draw is 000, and all of these others are benefiting. I mean, 2 morale, resolve, and fortitude, and 1 draw. Like, why wouldn't you try to go straight? Why wouldn't you try to go 111? That is actually pretty powerful. Okay, dice trick. Reduce 1 morale for 1 turn, reducing enemy morale, meaning they hit you for 20% multiplier less. The dice trick epiphany now caps based on quest completion. When a quest card using a quest card to heal, get a heal and fix damage is now unique, so you can only have 1. And the dice trick unique, when a quest is completed, create a quest card, is now at the start of the turn, create 1 empowered quest card. So it's definitely some harder hitting changes. Cassius before this was a draw god, damage god, overall god, morale boosting god. He can still give you absolutely obscene amounts of morale boost because his potential is unchanged, because he can create infinite attack cards. He still does the same things, it's just he doesn't do 100 million damage on top of that as well. Like, nothing truly crazy changed besides the fact that he now doesn't have infinite scaling. Even these changes of adding draw 1 in here is very, very promising. One of the only other drawbacks you could say is that he obviously can't be used as a super crazy draw engine anymore, where you do the 000 quest and then you get the quest and then you get even more quest cards, and some of these quest cards are like the draw cards, so you get like infinite damage, infinite draw. Now you kind of have to pick your path and make a couple more decisions, but by no means does this really seem like he's gonna be garbage, right? While Tressa's revised mechanics were found to deliver a new gameplay experience, the increased constraints of Cassius were identified as limiting, so now they've improved 110 straight as well. Kayron buffs? Okay. So Oath of Vanity at base now does 100% damage in here. With the damage, with the balanced version, it's 150. With the initiation version, it's also 100. With the attack version, it's now 200% at base. And the Oath of Vanity that adds Agony to a target when futility cards are exhausted is now changed to 2 Agony to all enemies when 2 futility cards is exhausted. And keep in mind, Agony now works differently, might scale a lot more different, and he might actually become valid as a Agony creating threat. Also true, any Agony Divine Epiphanies on cards now naturally just deal more damage. Not by a crazy amount, but they do. Selena now does plus 80% mark damage amount. Damn, so Selena's mark now really cooks, and if in the future at some point we get another mark related combatant, she is right there as that like perfect support to further boost mark damage. I did not expect that, but that is actually quite great. Okay, Owen. Owen buff, they didn't forget about him. So Owen buffs in terms of damage all across the board. More damage here, more increases here, more damage, more damage, more damage, more damage, and more damage. And a bit of shield gain. Wow. Veronica. Weakness attack now applies to ballista. That's insane. That is actually clinically insane. Okay, yeah, Veronica is now... If you ever wanted to build main DPS Veronica, now's your time. See, at this point I'm getting a little worried. Is this what they meant with increasing the HP amount from level 6... from level 61 enemies onwards? Do we need more damage? Because enemies are going to have more HP? I don't know, but that is really strong. That is really strong. Piercing Ballista stronger. Extra attack damage plus crit chance stronger. This one's stronger. This one's stronger. And you now also gain more reload from bombardment prep. Hey, okay, sure. that is kind of crazy. Okay, Beryl. yeah, general damage increases along the opening founds, besides obviously the popular opening found upgrade epiphany. It just works the same way it always did. Now the other paths are more viable. 180 plus 80, 240 plus 20, 360 plus 180, 240, 120. Overall just boosts for charge shots as well, and should allow you to use a bunch more epiphanies. Maribell, more damage with Resolute Blitz, as well as all the other epiphanies. Yeah, overall just more Resolute Blitz damage. Quite straightforward. Renoa, weakness attack applies to Dirge Bullets. Ta-da! Apparently everybody is being served, and now Renoa against void enemies is even more deadly than before. Alright. 120% extra attack damage when moved to the exhaust by 120 instead of 80. So Dirge Bullets now deal 40% more extra damage to enemies when moved to the pile. The same is true for Finale. That is disgusting. Damn. So, Renoa is now also an absolute cooking target. Chainfire, Unique Epiphany 3. For each critical hit, create handgun bullet guaranteed critical. Now does 300% instead of 150. Okay. The 3-hitter with more crit chance bullet card now has 50% increased base damage. And the 2-hitter for draw now has more base damage. It's okay. Right? It's okay. Dimensional Cube also now big nerf, but at the end of the day, Dimensional Cube, it was doing more than it could. No ring in the game was able to get anywhere close to a 100, 200, 300, 400% damage bonus so long as you just discarded your entire deck and continued doing so. So now it's being brought more in line, but also becoming more useful for other characters as a whole, in that now the max stat cap is 3, so you can get a 45% damage increase, which is still really and plenty strong. In comparison, the Amorphous Cube is only 25 instead of 45. So, yeah, it's not dead by any means, and you'll just have to not just rely on a singular item to fully provide insane amounts of damage boost. And also, again, once more, keep in mind, Cassius, right? He still stacks morale as he did before. Okay, so assigned combatants' attack is increased by 8 to 16%. Retoshka, Lillian, Priscilla, Scarlet. Damn. So just an additional attack boost for any 4 and 5-star partners currently in the game across the board. Battle Pass partners included. And for anybody else that is based on defense base, they're getting 8 to 16% defense based increase. So yeah, there you go. If you have a 5-star partner, you better use them. Scarlet, everybody else that was already popular, even stronger. Briar already, hey, you know the deal. And yeah, that is kind of nasty. As well as also because it's percentage based attack increase, which applies at the end of any other stat on top of your final attack value. So yeah, that's kind of huge. Peace.